Now at 11, San Francisco. They brought back Robert Saleh to be the defensive coordinator after finishing 29th in scoring this past year. They've got some free agents in the secondary, and I think the best player available at this point would be the Thorpe Award winner from Texas, Jahdae Barron. That fits for me. I think that's an easy pick for San Francisco. Jahdae Barron, very good player. He can go to San Francisco that needs help on the defensive side. They're going to be struggling contractually in the secondary, so he can make them younger. He can make them cheaper in that area, and I think that he can give them that same impact. Really like his game. I've loved his game for a long time. So Jahdae Barron from Texas goes to San Francisco. Then we go to number 12, and a pick that everyone's going to be thinking about, as we always do, the Dallas Cowboys right there at number 12. Defense and run game are big areas of need for the Cowboys. Dak coming off of that hamstring surgery. The Cowboys need a running back, in my estimation. They were 30th in the league in yards per carry this past year. Jerry has shown that he's not afraid to draft a running back in the first round. I'm going running back Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Jeanty is the best running back available. This guy is an unreal runner. Okay, he's a plus runner. Whatever the play is blocked for, he's gaining plus yardage on top of that. He's physical. He's fast. He's got home run ability. While they didn't throw it to him a lot this last year, it was more based out of the fact that they were going to hand it to him 28 times. You can't throw it to him 5 times if you're going to hand it to him 28 times. And they didn't want to hand it to him 22 times because they were going after Barry Sanders. He can catch it, and he's got pass catching production in his background at Boise State this last year, notwithstanding, though, because of the importance of trying to get that record for Ashton Jeanty as he was on his march toward a potential Heisman Trophy, in which he finished in a very close second to Travis Hunter. I love Jeanty. I think he's perfect in that spot, and I think Dallas is the team that takes him and improves that run game. Now we go to 13, the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins have a lot of free agents on the defensive side of the ball. So I was looking at this and I was like, give me a versatile defender. And Jihad Campbell from Alabama came to mind. And I think that this is a smart spot for Campbell. Campbell moved around at Alabama. Okay. So he's going to have history on the ball, off the ball, inside, outside, all of those places. He was a linebacker, but moved more outside as the Tide had some injuries this last year. Former 5-star recruit. He was first team all SEC. Led the Tide in tackles. He's a good football player. And I think Miami would do well if they drafted him because, again, their defense is going to need to fill a lot of holes, potentially, based on what happens in free agency. And Jihad Campbell, he can play in a lot of places, and he's a versatile hybrid-style player, which I think holds a lot of value in the modern game. So, yeah, hybrid player there. Number 14, Indianapolis Colts. They are up here. So the Colts, I think, need to reinforce the offensive line, not only to give Jonathan Taylor a little bit more help, but Anthony Richardson a little bit more help. You can really lean into, I think that and no pun intended with the franchise's history in Baltimore, but with Richardson, I think that you have an opportunity with Taylor to be a Ravens-style team where you can really dominate on the ground. Because your quarterback can run it really well and be a threat with his legs, and you've got a really good running back. That's a good blueprint. So why not go up front? I like them going offensive line here. I like the right tackle at Missouri, Armand Mimbu, 6'3", 325 pounds. I think he could play guard at the next level, which would fit with what Indianapolis needs. So Mimbu, 14 to the Colts. Falcons up at 15 here. They have got to get pass rushing help. Second fewest sacks in the league this past year. I look at my big board, and I know you guys don't see it right now, but there was a guy before the season that a lot of people talked about, hey, if the season falls the right way for him, he could be a number 1 pick in the draft. He could be the number 2 pick in the draft. And that's the edge player from Tennessee, James Pierce. I like Pierce there, and I think that Atlanta will feel like they got great value with Pierce because, again, at the top end, I think he's got top 5 pick potential. It didn't pan out that way. I think he's going to fall down into the middle of the first round, and when you look at the need, for pass rushing help that Atlanta has, second fewest sacks in the league, like I mentioned, Pierce fits really well right there with the Falcons. Then the Cardinals are up at 16. They could also use some help, by the way, off the edge. And Shamar Stewart, who didn't quite have the production that we all feel like he should have from Texas A&M with the way he was recruited as a 5-star kid, I think he's going to test well. He went down to Mobile and had a really solid Senior Bowl. He's 6'5", 290 pounds, NFL frame. Like I said, the production wasn't really there. Only 4.5 sacks in 37 games. And that gives me a lot of pause. And that's why I've got other edge rushers up there ahead of them. But again, good Senior Bowl week. And I think teams are going to be really fascinated with his body type. So I'm going to go Shamar Stewart right there to Arizona with the 16th pick. The Bengals up at 17. And there's a couple of players that are still on the board that, I struggled with leaving them on the board until this point. And that's the 2 tight ends. I think the Bengals have too many contracts to figure out on the offensive side. They've got to figure out Chase, Trey Hendrickson's. They want extensions. Likely going to lose T. Higgins in free agency. And then you've got this issue of what's the blueprint out there? Brady recently had Gronk. Stafford had Cooper Kupp. Mahomes has had Kelsey. Philly notwithstanding, they did it with defense. But if you're going to win with a great quarterback, you better give him somebody that can really own the middle of the field and that, if needed, the entire passing game can run through. Now, is someone going to come in and take Jamar Chase's targets away? No. And if he's there, the passing game is going to run through Jamar Chase. However, when you start looking at someone that can command attention in the middle of the field and can be creative, similar to what Kelsey has been for Patrick Mahomes, I think Cincinnati has a player sitting in front of them that can be a Kelsey influence to Burrow. So Cincinnati gets their Kelsey, and they're going to take Tyler Warren, the Mackey Award winner, the Penn State tight end. I really love this selection. And again, when you're doing these mocks, sometimes you mock places and it's like, do I think Tyler Warren's going to last all the way until the 17th pick to Cincinnati? Probably not, but I want it so bad. I want Burrow to have Tyler Warren. I want him to have this creative playmaker that you can get the ball to in so many different ways. He's great with the ball in his hands after the catch, tossing it to him. He lines up all over the field. He took snaps at quarterback. Again, the creativity commands attention. And when you're commanding attention away from Jamar Chase, that's going to improve your offense, and it's going to improve Joe Burrow. They need something that gets them over the hump of some of these other AFC, teams like the Bills, like Baltimore, like Kansas City. And maybe Tyler Warren is that piece. I love Warren. The entire passing game had to go through him. Part of his production was the fact that Penn State did not have a very good core of wide receivers, so it had to go through him. So he commanded attention and yet still finished with over 100 catches this last year. Let's go to the 18th selection of the first round of the NFL draft, the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. Seattle allowed the 4th most sacks in the league last year. They need more talent on the offensive line. Again, these picks don't tend to be all that sexy, but if you're Geno Smith, you were under a ton of duress last year, pressured on nearly 40% of his dropbacks. That was 5th most in the National Football League. Their left tackle, Charles Cross, he's entering a pivotal year for him, year 4. Seahawks have a decision to make about his next contract. I'm taking the tackle from Texas, Kelvin Banks Jr. He's an excellent player. I think he's got position versatility. He could move down if you wanted to. I think they could flip him out to right tackle if you really wanted to. Their left guard, Laken Tomlinson, is a free agent, so that could be a potential bridge spot for Banks. Again, just talent up front. And I think that's a direction that they could go. So at 18, Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas to the Seahawks. At 19, Tampa Bay. Okay. Godwin suffered that nasty dislocated ankle this year and is a free agent. Mike Evans is going to be 32 years old. There's a wide receiver that just fits the Mike Evans mold available right here. You can get Baker Mayfield, another tall, rangy, solid number 1 wide receiver, Teteroa McMillan, the Arizona wide receiver. I've got him 19 to Tampa Bay. They lost their OC to the Jags, Liam Cohen. This is not a great wide receiver draft as opposed to last year when we saw 3 wide receivers in the top 10. So I think McMillan could likely fall to this spot. I just like this a lot. He just reminds me so much of Mike Evans in just body type, the way that he can go up, run some of those routes. His length is such a weapon down the field. You know, his lack of productivity this year as opposed to last year, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were just forcing the football to him so much, and the entirety of the defense was able to focus on number 4 for Arizona. But I like Tetero and McMillan to Tampa Bay. Again, that mold of Mike Evans, I can't get that out of my mind. 20th pick, the Denver Broncos. Okay, so the Broncos, I think they need to do 2 things here. I think that the Broncos need to get better in the run game and up front with their offensive line. And they need to continue to develop some threats in the passing game and weapons for Bo Nix, their young quarterback, who had a really solid rookie year. Their run game was a problem. And they've got a guy I think can help in both areas. From Michigan, the tight end Colston Loveland. Now, Colston Loveland is a more inline traditional style tight end as opposed to, like, let's say Tyler Warren, who I gave to Cincinnati with the 17th pick. Loveland has been excellent inline blocking for a team that loves to run the football. We know that. But he's also an outstanding traditional route runner. Not maybe the creativity of a Tyler Warren, but in terms of a traditional sense, can line up as the single wide receiver on the outside, can create from inline running the seam. He can flex out. He's very good and precise in his routes. He's got great hands, and he's got an ability to run with the ball in his hands that few tight ends have. I think the lack of production for Colston Loveland was twofold this last year. I think that his value is going to get hurt by the fact that they did not have quality quarterback play, nor a real passing identity whatsoever this last year at Michigan, and he was battling some injuries. Everything had to go through him. Everyone focused on him. Those 2 areas are why he didn't have a great year from a statistical production standpoint, but he fits great with Denver. I nailed Denver last year. I said Bo Nix to the Denver Broncos. I thought it was going to be a great fit. This one is another great fit. You know, to me, Colston Loveland, he's a better blocking version of Jimmy Graham. And with Peyton's history with the Saints, again, I go back to those blueprints. I did it with Pete Carroll. I've done it now with the Bucs with Mike Evans and Tetero and McMillan, and maybe with Sean Payton and Colston Loveland, they find a little bit of a fit there with their pass and a tight end to the Denver Broncos. Now we get into the late 20s here, or I guess it dip into the 20s, the 21st pick with Pittsburgh. I'll be honest with Pittsburgh. I have no idea. I think Pittsburgh could use any number of position groups. Therefore, I don't think that this is necessarily just a position of need. Who's going to be their quarterback this year? Like, they've got a lot to figure out. Looks like Russell Wilson won't be coming back. Will they bring Fields back? I think so. Will they go the free agent route? Not sure. Is a Cousins? Who knows, right? They could go for a quarterback in round 2. I think that they need a wide receiver. George Pickens is their only real threat, and he hasn't really been that consistent. And so I'm going to go wide receiver here. Matthew Golden from Texas, the wide receiver. Golden only spent 1 year at Texas. He transferred in from Houston, but he made the most of it. He was excellent for them and obviously made a few huge plays in the playoff for Texas as they were able to beat Arizona State. Again, my confidence level is low on this one because I don't know where Pittsburgh is headed. And that sounds strange because Pittsburgh has been like the picture and the pillar of consistency in the National Football League for a long time, but this offseason feels a little bit different. All right, at 22, the LA Chargers. Now, here's what's fascinating is that the Chargers are sitting here and Jim Harbaugh just saw 3 of his Michigan Wolverines selected already. So Will Johnson, Mason Graham, and Colston Loveland are off the board, right? And I just don't think that Jim Harbaugh is going to allow a Michigan Wolverine to pass him up right there, in particular when that guy is Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Nobody knows Kenneth Grant better in this league than Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator. And do they need defensive help? Maybe not, but guess what? I sat with those guys face to face, and they each told me, hey, in the long run, Kenneth Grant might be the best one of them all. Now, was he better than Mason Graham in college? No, not quite. Was he almost as good? Yes. Those two as a tandem were phenomenal. Minter's defense was number one in the NFL in scoring this past year, and he wants to build a run wall. Okay, I talked with these guys at length. Mike McDonald, then Jesse Minter, then Wink Martindale. The Raven-style defense that Jim Harbaugh brought back into Michigan was this. You build a run wall up front, then you build hard edges to rush the quarterback, and then you throw hybrid, fast, physical, smart players in the second and third level. You get some corners that can cover, in particular in man coverage. You get them locked down on the outside. That's how you win and play great defense. And building a run wall is the first building block of that defense. Kenneth Grant, I think, is going to be a tremendous player, and we might look up at the end of this and say, oh, man, he was better than all of them. Again, that's what they told me sitting face-to-face last year when I would go and call those games. Upside with Grant is huge. 6'3", 340 pounds. He's a total freak athlete. You'll remember, not this last year, but the year before, Michigan rolled into Penn State. Katron Allen breaks away, and he's got like a breakaway, and Kenneth Grant hawks him down, 340 pounds. Dude is nimble and very good, and I think he's going to be a great pro.
Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.